3 bone-chilling true stalker tales that haunt you at 3 a.m. forever. The night was thick and dark, a shroud wrapping around the small town of Maplewood like a sinister secret. It was the kind of darkness that made every sound eerily amplified. The rustling leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, or the snap of a twig could send chills racing down your spine. People said something unnatural lurked in that shadowy abyss, a form of stalking that wasn't just criminal but almost supernatural. It wasn't until the clock struck 3 that the townsfolk knew their fears were not just figments of imagination, but reality crashing down upon them. Just last week, Claire, a bright-eyed girl with dreams bigger than the night sky, had vanished without a trace. No reason, no sign, she simply disappeared. Her best friend reported strange messages on social media before her disappearance. They were cryptic and haunting, written in a style that felt uncomfortably familiar yet disturbingly twisted. "I see you, Claire. The shadows know where you are." Those words echoed in the hearts of every remaining resident, chilling their bones with every moment they replayed the days leading up to her vanishing. Then there was the case of Thomas, an unsuspecting mailman. He felt at first a prickle on the back of his neck. At first, he thought it was paranoia, but the feeling grew every single day. He began to see the same figure lingering on the corners of streets he delivered to. A silhouette clad in darkness, always watching. Thomas tried to shake it off, but he felt the icy grip of fear knotting his stomach as the figure became a more familiar face in his daily routine. Eyewitness accounts reported hearing whispers echoing in the alleys where he often turned, each syllable intended to torment. That sense of being hunted gnawed at him until one fateful afternoon, he mysteriously vanished too, leaving his mail bag behind, spilling letters of dread on the ground. And let us not forget Jake, a high school athlete who'd been the pride of Maplewood. Often found running laps at the track, he had a legion of fans cheering for him. But one day, he noticed a woman sitting quietly in the bleachers, staring with an intensity that made him shudder. The next day, she showed up again, and the next, and the next. Every time he ran laps, she was there, her gaze unwavering. The whispers spread like wildfire. People said she was a stalker, a ghost sent to haunt the sins of that town. Jake felt that knot in his chest tight. Yet again her presence started blurring the lines between fan and predator. Anyone could see her lurking behind his every move. Until he disappeared into thin air, only leaving behind a single, crumpled photograph of her and a note that simply read, "I'm not alone anymore. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up." Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The clock ticked ominously and the air filled with dread. Could it be that the tales of the stalker were more than rumors? Was there a thread weaving these chilling stories together? The townsfolk gathered in hushed tones, their eyes darting around, searching for answers that lurked in the shadows. An unexpected knock echoed through the hall, leaving the crowd breathless. Who would dare to knock at this hour? What if it was the stalker? What if it was someone who knew where Claire, Thomas, and Jake had gone? Tension thickened, hearts raced, and a terrible realization settled in: someone, or something, was among them. Could anyone escape the lurking horror? A heavy silence draped over the room as the crowd stared at the door, hearts pounding. The knock had been so sudden, so unexpected, cutting through the whispers like a knife. Shadows flickered in the dim light, creating ghostly shapes that danced along the walls. Everyone was waiting, breath held, fearing that whatever lay on the other side was far worse than their twisted imaginations. Then it came again, a louder knock, each thud echoing ominously, rumbling through the hall like a thunderstorm. A few brave souls shuffled forward, their feet barely touching the ground. There was a flicker of movement, a flash of doubt in their eyes. They shared silent glances, trying to make sense of it all. Was it worth the risk to open the door? Finally, an older woman with spectacles perched on her nose stepped forward, trembling slightly. "I'll do it," she declared, though it sounded more like a whisper escaping her lips as if she were trying to combat her own fear. Cautiously, she reached for the doorknob, her fingers shaking, not entirely sure if she wanted to twist it at all. Behind her, the crowd held their breath. As the door creaked open, an icy breeze swept through the hall, sending shivers down spines. Standing in the doorway was a figure cloaked in darkness, long hair obscuring their face. The crowd recoiled slightly, whispers turning into murmurs of disbelief. Had the stalker finally revealed themselves? "I'm back," the figure said softly, a voice like a ghostly whisper that danced off the walls, causing the hair on the back of everyone's neck to stand on end. "Claire." Someone stammered, recognition struggling to break through the fog of fear. The girl they had feared lost was standing there, her clothes ragged, eyes sunken but alert, a look of wild confusion pooling within them. "Claire! Where have you been?" The crowd erupted into questions, each voice laced with equal measures of relief and panic. They rushed forward, fumbling to comprehend the impossible, but Claire did not answer right away. She stood there, fixated on the shadows behind her, like something invisible was pressing against her. You have to listen," she murmured, her voice trembling. "They know I'm here." Panic spread like wildfire through the crowd. They exchanged fearful glances, but Claire pressed on, eyes reflecting a desperate intensity. "I saw Thomas and Jake. They're not gone. They're here somewhere." Gasps filled the air, a collective dread washing over them. Hope struggled against the weight of their fear, and just then, as if their thought summoned it, a rustle echoed from the shadows beyond the door. "Claire, what do you mean?" A voice cried out from the back. "What did you see?" "Something is hunting us. It uses the shadows." Her words hung heavy in the air, like a storm cloud, making the temperature drop sharply. An unsettling feeling crept through the hall as the townsfolk's eyes darted back to the inky darkness outside the doorway. "We're not safe," Claire warned, voice quivering as irrational fear blinded her reason. "We can't stay here." But just as they were about to turn and run, a soft, mocking whisper slithered into the hall, like a chilling breeze. "Why would you want to leave now?" "The night is still young." Fingers went cold, and the crowd turned back to Claire, terror etched onto their faces. What were they dealing with? Was it too late to escape? The darkness seemed to come alive, swirling around them, a predator eagerly waiting for its prey. In that moment, they understood. They weren't just players in a nightmare, they were being hunted, and as the room filled with despair, one shrill scream echoed through the town of Maplewood, slicing through the tension, a scream that belonged to Claire as a sinister figure emerged from behind her, reaching for the crowd. What would they do next? Who would survive? The sinister figure loomed larger, stretching out a long, shadowy hand. Panic erupted like a volcano, sending the townspeople scrambling backward, each person colliding into another in a scramble to escape the looming terror. "Run!" Someone shouted, voice raw with fear, but it was too late. The doorframe became a passage to an unknown horror that threatened to swallow them whole. Claire's face twisted in horror, recognition sparking in her sunken eyes. "No. It's not safe outside," she yelled, but her plea was drowned by the cacophony of shrieks and shuffling feet. The dark figure advanced, palpable and terrifying. It seemed to absorb the very essence of the room. The light faded as it approached, leaving only gulping shadows in its wake. Desperation clawed at the crowd as screams turned to frantic whispers, and everyone's wide eyes darted around for a place to hide. Someone grabbed Claire's arm. "What do we do?" She felt the panic in their grip. "Stick together," Claire shouted, but her voice wavered with uncertainty. "We need to find a way to trap it but Claire didn't finish her sentence. From the shadows, a low rumble echoed, reverberating through their bones, a sound that morphed into a chilling laughter. "You think you can control me?" The voice morphed like smoke, drenched in malice. The figure moved with unsettling speed, darting forward and back like a predator playing with its prey. The rattled townspeople huddled together, forming an uneasy circle, eyes fixed on the dark creature. Their breath came in shaky gasps, and the flickering of candles began to sputter, casting the room into an anxious dance of light and spectre. "Everyone, stay calm." A voice bellowed from the back. Mark, the town sheriff. He stepped forward, trying to assert control. "We need to stick together. If we don't break apart, it can't pick us off one by one." As if mocking him, the sinister figure coiled around the room, ensnaring the edges like a thick mist. With a sudden flourish, it revealed a glowing orb, like a twisted version of a flame that danced above its palm. "You think unity is your shield?" It taunted, the flame flickering dangerously in tandem with the shadows. "No." Claire cried out, eyes widening as she instinctively pushed her way closer to the group. "It thrives on fear. Don't let it in. Hold each other." But the more they focused on the figure, the more it feasted on their terror. The dark mass shifted, undulating, revealing shadowy faces, twisted and agonized, flickering in and out of existence. Those horrific features met Claire's gaze, feeding off her dread, and she felt her heart race uncontrollably. She clenched her teeth, forcing herself to confront the surge of panic. With a sudden surge of courage, Claire shouted, "Everyone, follow me. We can lure it away from the door. We have to use the basement." She felt the gravity of the moment. Hope, against pure instinct, but as they began to move, the figure slithered faster than thought, bearing razor-like teeth. It hissed through the darkness, "You think you can hide? Go. Now." Claire directed, leading the hesitant crowd toward the basement entrance in a desperate bid for safety. Tension crackled in the air as they flooded past the doorway, the malevolent figure stalking just behind, its laughter echoing coldly as Claire pushed the last person into the basement. She slammed the old door shut, but the weak wood felt fragile as if the shadows would seep through any moment. Breathless, they pressed against the door, hearts racing. "What if it gets through?" someone whispered, terror tinging their words, a tremor of doubt threatening to drown them all in despair. But Claire, fueled by a fierce need to survive, turned to face her friends, the weight of fear in her chest shifting to defiance. "We can't let it win. We'll fight. We need a plan." As they began to hash out ideas, a sound hummed from the door, soft and sinister, a low murmur promising that it was still there, waiting for its moment, and just outside the door, the shadow whispered again, "You can't hide from the darkness." What if the darkness wasn't just hunting them? What if it was already inside? The dark murmurs from the door hammered in Claire's ears. She could almost feel the shadows curling against the wood, pulsing with a malevolence that made her skin crawl. It was her first time truly understanding fear, not a mere shiver from a horror movie, but a living, breathing thing that wrapped around her throat and chilled her bones. "Quick! Do we have anything?" Claire scanned the dimly lit basement, desperately searching for something, anything, that could help them. Her heart raced as she noticed the old tools scattered in the corners, rusty shovels, a broken pitchfork, even an axe leaning against the wall. "It won't matter," Mark interjected, glancing back toward the door that began to rattle. "If it gets in, we'll be sitting ducks. We need to secure ourselves here. Let us barricade the door," Claire suggested, her voice steadier now. They scrambled towards the tools, their eyes flickering with fresh desperation. A group rallied around the door, bracing themselves against the relentless thumping. Just then, the gloomy laughter erupted outside. "You think a few boards can stop me?" the figure taunted, the voice slithering into their minds like ice water. "I feast on human dread, you'll never be safe." "Shut up!" shouted a voice from the back. It was Jenna, barely holding back tears. "You don't know us. We're stronger together." "Together?" the shadows hissed, the sound oozing with mockery. "Look around you, doubt festers like a wound. Your unity is a mirage." Claire felt at the creeping worry that curled its fingers around their unity, attempting to fracture it. "No. We can't let it divide us," she yelled, eyes wide, glancing at her friends. "Remember your family. Your loved ones. Think about how much you have to lose. For now. Mark added, tightening his grip on the makeshift barricade, determination reigniting in his gaze. The others echoed hearty affirmations, even as the door quivered unsettlingly against their collective hold. That I and the shadows, the laughter transformed into a cruel symphony of derision, as if the darkness was feeding off their rising hope. Oh, but my dear Claire, you forget, the fear you think is absent is already nestled deep inside. The lights flickered, plunging them into darkness for a heartbeat. Panic surged among the group, but Claire squeezed her eyes shut, pushing back against the rising tide of despair. Listen. She urged, voice hoarse but unwavering. We can't let it know how afraid we are. If we stay strong, if we believe. Before she could finish, a gust of cold air swept through the space, chilling them to the bone. The shadows outside the door twisted, forming grotesque images that mimicked their deepest fears. Shadows of loss, betrayal, even past regrets writhed in despair around them. Look at my children, it taunted, the grotesque forms depicting their friends, families. They were features twisted in sorrow and fear, dancing through the dark, pulling down each glimmer of hope. This is what you truly are. No. Claire screamed, her voice shattering through the overwhelming dread. We will break your hold. In that moment, a flood of memories surged through her. Growing up, laughter during summer nights, the warmth of hugs from her mother. The scent of blooming flowers in her backyard. Rallying her strength, Claire shouted, we're not alone in this. You don't control us. The dark figure paused, the laughter faltering, briefly disrupted by the force of her conviction. Claire's heart raced as she shouted, together. We fight together. But then, echoing through the endless night of the basement came a dread-chilling whisper, more stinging now than before. You think you are united? You only share in the burden of your own shadows. Who will stand when the light beckons? Just as Claire felt the warmth of rising determination ignite within her heart, the door splintered with a bone-rattling crash. Panic erupted anew. It's coming in. As the darkness surged toward them, blending laughter and fear into a single scream, Claire found herself grappling with the worst possibility of all. What if it didn't want to just kill them? What if it wanted something much worse? Could they face their own shadows before the darkness engulfed them whole? The door splintered again, a violent crack echoing in the confined space, sending splinters flying into the air like metallic shrapnel. Claire gritted her teeth, forcing her body to press harder against the door. Sweat trickled down her back, and with every passing second, the atmosphere thickened with dread. Reinforce it. Grab the pitchfork. Mark yelled, his face lit by sheer terror. The shadows whispered louder now, fluttering through the cracks, promising twisted revelations. Claire looked around, frantic. Jenna was already trying to shove the faulty pitchfork into the doorframe while others focused on the barring boards. Just as the pitchfork slipped from Jenna's grasp, it tumbled to the floor, clattering against the concrete. The laughter grew deeper, more horrifying, wrapping around them like a suffocating veil. Your delight in hope, how quaint. Each laugh harnesses your uncertainty. Shut up. Claire shouted over the cacophony, her voice fierce in the face of that taunting glee. There was an urgency now, a primal instinct. They had to keep fighting, or they would drown in their own fears, but Mark's voice quivered too, the wavering of his resolve a stark reminder. What if it's right? What if we can't hold it back? His words dripped with hopelessness, easily mingling with the shadows creeping into their thoughts. No. We have to trust each other. Claire urged. We're stronger than it thinks. A light flickered back into the eyes of her friends, even as uncertainty clawed at them. All at once, a chorus of determination rose, a rallying cry echoing through the dimly lit space. Then, the shadows outside contorted, morphing into images designed to tear them apart. Claire felt sick as she saw her own parents' faces, twisted in anguish, their mouths stretched wide in silent screams. Listen to them. They know your secrets, your failures. A chill shot through her spine. It felt so real, so painfully immersive. But she couldn't let it take root. With a surge of adrenaline, she bellowed, "They're not real. They're just shadows." She seized the pitchfork from the ground, holding it like a weapon, defiance igniting within her chest. "Get away from them." Jenna's voice rose, and Claire's heart swelled to see her friend gathering strength. Together, they gripped whatever they could find, tools, hands, hope, and pulled them close, forming a circle of solidarity. The energy shifted, it felt potent and vibrant, but then, from the depths of the silence, came a guttural growl, low and menacing. It resonated with a dark power, an assertion of dominance so visceral it left them breathless. "Do you really believe you can overcome me?" The door shook violently, throwing them against one another, bodies colliding in panic yet somehow finding a frail sense of unity in that chaos. "We can't let it break us," Claire cried, her heart racing in rhythm with the pounding at the door, yet the figure outside laughed again, a sound infused with an icy bitterness. "Alas, that's the great irony, isn't it? You'll never be truly free until you confront what lies within. Who in this room is already marked by despair?" And just like that, the laughter morphed into a chorus of ghostly whispers, each voice piercing through the thick haze of fear. Every shadow seemed to whisper a name. Claire felt the air grow heavy, and in that shared moment, deep-rooted insecurities clenched at her heart. Suddenly, the door burst open, splintering completely, sending shards flying like deadly shrapnel. Time slowed as cold tendrils reached out, wrapping around them, pulling their souls toward the brink. "Run!" Claire's voice pierced the fog, a sound of desperation. They surged forward, moving as one, their feet barely connecting with the ground. The darkness snarled in rage, scrambling to reclaim them, but it wasn't just about survival anymore. What awaited them in that void? Did they even realize what slumbered behind the threshold? As they sprinted into the unknown, Claire could sense it, the weight of something darker swirling, watching, waiting, and she couldn't escape the question clawing at her mind: what if the true terror was not just outside, but stirring within them, threatening to rupture everything they held dear? Adrenaline surged through Claire as she and her friends plunged into the darkness. The stench of damp earth and decay enveloped them like a heavy fog. Heart pounding, she stole a glance over her shoulder, the door frame now a jagged mouth, grinning wide behind them, shadows pressuring the edges with sinister intent. "Where do we go?" Jenna gasped, her voice quaking. The air felt thick and musty, tension swirling like predator and prey. Claire could feel the fear radiating from her friends like heat from a panicked animal. "We move," Claire urged, pushing a protective hand against Jenna's back, urging her ahead. "Just keep running." The uncertain echo of their feet against the concrete served as a grim reminder it was only the beginning. They descended deeper into the bowels of the earth, the thrum of shadows resounding and clawing at their minds. Mark stumbled, the pitchfork clattering from his grip as he fell forward. I can't do this." "Get up!" Claire cried, grabbing his arm and yanking him to his feet. If they didn't stick together now, they'd be lost. "You have to fight, Mark." As the darkness twisted around them, it felt alive. Tendrils of shadow wormed their way into her thoughts, taunting secrets and failures, old anxieties that had long been buried. Faces flashed lost opportunities, harsh judgments, quiet demons whispering their fears. "Don't listen. They're lies," Claire shouted, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "Remember who you are." She saw Jenna's face, eyes wide and fierce, reflecting Claire's determination. Together, they powered forward, but the ground beneath them trembled, a deep growl rumbling from somewhere below as if the very earth was awakening to swallow them whole. A guttural voice echoed, "You think you're strong? Your bonds are nothing. They'll betray you." A wave of doubt crashed over Claire like ice water, freezing her in place for a split second. But just as quickly, she thrust it aside. "We need to stay united." She turned, eyes blazing. "Stick with me." Suddenly, a rustle from the dark, a crouched figure emerged, flickering. A silhouette, a shadow mimicking their own movements, weaving in and out of sight. Claire's breath caught. What is that? This isn't right. Mark shouted, panic edging his voice as they pressed onward. We're trapped. The darkness pulsated with malicious glee, consuming the warmth of their hope. Come on. Claire urged, forcing her legs to move, pulling them through the encroaching blackness. Nothing could break their spirit, not now. But with each step, the whispers intensified, each accusation sharper, louder, forming a cacophony that threatened to implode. Remember the pain you tried to forget? The scars that never healed? The mocking drew nearer, wrapping around them like claws. You'll never escape. And then it hit her, a moment of bleak clarity. Wait. Claire paused. What if we face it? What if we confront it? She turned to the others, desperation in her eyes. We can't outrun our shadows. We need to face them together. Mark hesitated, his eyes darting around. But within that uncertainty sparked a flicker of hope. You really think it will work? It has to. Claire said, gripping his shoulder. We have to break its hold over us. Only then can we see the truth. As if answering, the shadows recoiled, retreating momentarily as if computing their next move. Claire took a deep breath, feeling the power of their connection surround her. On three. Together. Together, Jenna echoed, determination solidifying her voice. The shadows hissed, a primal scream tumbling from deep within. The void swirled, gathering a force that threatened to drag them back. But Claire felt the energy surge, it pulsed between them, a thread of defiance. 1. They shouted, fear igniting into strength. 2. 3. And in that moment, they faced the encroaching darkness, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. But would their unity be enough? Would facing their buried fears break the grip of the shadows, or would it plunge them deeper into the abyss? Just then, a blinding light erupted, and Claire's heart skipped a beat. The unseen power was shifting. What awaited them next could change everything or obliterate them entirely. The blinding light engulfed them, washing over the darkness like a tide of molten gold. Claire squinted, heart racing, as she shielded her eyes from the stark brilliance. For a fleeting moment, the shadows retreated, their sinister whispers fading into a distant hum. But the reprieve was as deceptive as it was brief, the air crackled with energy, and the realization hit Claire like a punch to the gut. It wasn't just light, they were standing at the threshold of something far greater, something that felt ancient and unfathomable. As her vision adjusted, she saw structures rising around them, carved out of the very earth. Towering pillars loomed like sentinels, their surfaces lined with eerie symbols that shimmered beneath the light. What is this place? Jenna breathed, eyes wide with fear and awe. I don't know, Claire whispered, stepping forward, her curiosity pushing her past the instinct to flee. But I think it's important. Important? Mark's voice trembled. This feels dangerous. We shouldn't be here. Before Claire could respond, the ground quaked beneath them, a violent tremor dispersing the light momentarily, sending them sprawling. The pillars groaned, shadows flickering along the walls like panicked spirits. Stay together. Claire shouted, her voice barely cutting through the chaos. She reached for Mark and Jenna, pulling them close. We can't let it split us up. As the tremor subsided, the darkness re-emerged, swirling around them like a ravenous creature, coiling tighter with each heartbeat. But then, from within that oppressive mass, a figure materialized, rising from the shadows. It was a woman, draped in tattered garments, her face obscured by a mask of shadow and despair. Why have you come? Her voice oozed with an ominous familiarity, sending chills down Claire's spine. Do you seek the truth, or merely to shatter your own delusions? What are you? Claire stammered, her voice a mix of resolve and trepidation. I am the keeper of shadows, the figure intoned, stepping closer, merging with the darkness yet remaining distinct. I guard the fears you bury deep, They are your past, your pain, your secrets. And here, they will consume you if you allow them. Mark swallowed hard, his hands trembling. We're not afraid of you. We want to break free. Break free. The keeper laughed, the sound echoing in the chamber like broken glass. You think the path to freedom lies in confrontation? You are merely children playing with the flames of your own misery. She's wrong. Claire shouted, determination igniting deep within her. We face our fears together. We can change this. We can change our narrative. The rest of the shadows surged forward, whispering accusations, flickering memories of pain and loss. Claire felt them clawing at her scenes of past failures, moments of betrayal. Her heart raced as she recalled the moments that had left scars on her soul. Jenna gasped, clutching Claire's arm. Claire, it's too much. No. Claire yelled, her voice ringing out over the cacophony. We won't back down. Remember who you are, Jenna. Remember your strength. Suddenly, the light pulsed again, flaring as if ignited by their collective spirit. The Keeper of Shadows recoiled, shrinking back from the radiance. A path opened before them, vibrant and teeming with possibility. Follow it. Claire urged, grasping Mark's and Jenna's hands, pulling them toward the flickering trail. We can find our way out together. This is our moment. But as they raced forward, the shadows snapped at their heels, a furious storm of darkness barely containing the essence of despair. The landscape began to shift, swirling like a maelstrom. The chamber quaked again, now chasing them as if they were prey. Just as they thought they were breaking free, the light flickered, threatening to extinguish, and the dark hands clawed, grasping for their ankles with a ferocity that sent icy dread coursing through them. Claire's heart drummed in her chest, each beat a countdown. Would they escape the Keeper's grasp, or would they be forever trapped in a realm of their own making? With a gut-wrenching certainty, Claire pushed forward, her voice rising above the storm. Just keep moving. We can't let it win. We won't let it win. But would her words rally her friends, or would they falter beneath the relentless pressure of shadow and shame? The answer lurked in the churning darkness ahead, and it drew closer, fast. The swirling shadows lashed out, tangling around Claire's legs like a dozen icy hands, trying to yank her back into the abyss. It felt like all the weight of her past was pouring onto her shoulders, pressing her down. A cold sweat formed on her brow, fear constricting her chest as she let out a ragged breath. Don't look back. She yelled, though the panic clawed at her throat, trying to pull her attention behind her. Mark and Jenna struggled to keep pace, their faces painted with terror, shadows reaching for them too. The air crackled, heavy with despair, but Claire kept pulling them forward, her grip unwavering. They sprinted down the illuminated path. The light was warm and vibrant, but every step felt like a defiance against the darkness that wanted to envelop them. Around them, the symbols on the pillars seemed to shift, their meanings obscured but undeniably alive. They writhed and pulsed, almost as if they were watching, judging each symbol a memory of grief that wanted to trap them forever. What if that thing is right? Jenna gasped, her breaths coming in short bursts. What if we can't escape our past? No. Claire shouted, pushing past the doubt gathering in her mind. We can't let it win. Our past is not us. Let it go. As they reached a fork in the path, two passages loomed, one bathed in white light, the other cloaked in darkness. Jenna hesitated, her eyes darting between the choices. Which way? Mark cried, panic rising in his voice. Towards the light. Claire shouted again, not just to reassure her friends, but to steel her own resolve. They veered to the right, but as they moved deeper into the light, the shadows clung tighter, not giving up, not backing down. Just when Claire felt they were breaking free, the ground shifted violently beneath them, a stomach-churning lurch that sent them tumbling forward into a blinding flare of light. They landed in a vast white expanse, the initial warmth of the light swiftly chilled by the echoing silence that followed. They scrambled to their feet, panting heavily, but the reprieve was short. The bright space crackled, shimmers of energy twisting into dark clouds overhead. "Where are we?" Mark asked, glancing wildly around. The enormity of the space felt disorienting. "Does it matter?" Jenna cried, her voice tinged with panic. "We need to keep moving." "Wait," Claire said, dread creeping in. What if this is just another trick? It could all be a trap." "Then we'll face it," Mark replied, his voice steadier than the shaking of his hands. But even as they stood together, the shadows reformed at the edges of the light, writhing, whispering echoes of their past failures. As if waiting for a moment of vulnerability, they became a living, breathing menace. "Do you fear the Keeper of Shadows?" A voice boomed from the darkness, seducing and taunting. It was deep and smooth, wrapping around them like a serpent. "You think you can escape? Your sins are etched in stone. Leave us alone." Claire shouted, the determination rising in her from somewhere deep and raw, but even as she spoke, tendrils of darkness reached out, coiling around her wrist like a vice, squeezing her strength. The panic surged within her. She could feel the weight of shame and self-doubt threatening to drown her, smothering her defense. Just as she thought her strength was waning, a memory flashed before her mind's eye, a moment of triumph, small yet persistent. It ignited a burning resolve deep in her chest. "Remember who we are," Claire cried out, her heart racing. "Remember our joys, our victories. We're more than our shadows." With that declaration, a powerful surge radiated from her, an almost blinding light emanating from their entwined hands. It pushed back against the darkness, creating an opening in the storm that had been closing in around them. They rushed forward toward that emerging light, hearts pounding, the tendrils pulling desperately at their backs. But as they fled, Claire heard the Keeper's voice once more, slithering through the bright space as if it was real, tangible, waiting patiently. "Do you believe you can escape the truth? Truth will find you, and when it does, it will be devastating." With a final push, they leaped through the portal of light, hoping they had left the shadowy dread behind. But the questions filled their minds: had they truly escaped, or was this only the prelude to something much worse? The air behind them thickened, a chill settling in with dissonant laughter echoing in the distance. Claire turned to see only the faintest trace of darkness lingering, always waiting. What awaited on the other side of their leap? The answer hovered just out of reach, shrouded in a veil of uncertainty and dread. The bright expanse began to shift around them, distorting as it quivered like a mirage. Claire, Mark, and Jenna stood frozen, breathless. The light seemed to stretch, neither welcoming nor entirely safe. Shadows dripped at the edges of the whiteness, slithering like smoke trying to consume the blinding glow. "What now?" Mark's voice was barely above a whisper, a tremor betraying his brave facade. "I don't know," Claire admitted, her heart racing in her chest. "But we have to move. We can't let it, whatever it is, catch up to us." Jenna nodded, though her body shook. "Together," she said, positioning herself between Claire and Mark, like she could shield them both. They took hesitant steps forward, the ground solid beneath their feet but filled with an unsettling undulation. Each footfall seemed to whisper secrets from the past, reminding her of mistakes she wished to forget. Grief clawed at her throat again, stealing her breath. With every moment, the air grew heavier, pressing down on them. It was as if the walls of this white void wanted to swallow them whole. Claire's gaze flickered to their surroundings. The features of the place seemed to pulse, the light revealing forms she hadn't noticed before, figures standing still and silent, almost like statues or trapped souls. "Do you see that?" Mark asked, fear painting his expression. "Yeah, but we have to keep moving." Claire forced the words out, even as icy fingers of dread wrapped around her heart. Jenna pointed ahead, her voice cracking. "What is that?" In the distance, a silhouette began to materialize, a tall, dark figure cloaked in swirling shadow. It stood as an ominous center of gravity, pulling at the very light that shadowed around it. The Keeper of Shadows. The name echoed in Claire's mind like a shattered bell tolling the approach of doom. "Stay close," Claire urged. We can't let it, Claire. Mark interrupted, his eyes wide with fear. It's coming. Without warning, the figure surged forward. The ground trembled as its form flickered and expanded, filling the vast space with darkness. The warmth of the light they'd been wrapped in felt miles away, and the shadows roared like a tempest, closer and closer. Run! Claire cried, yanking Jenna's hand and pulling Mark along. They dashed toward the closest bright patch ahead, but it felt like they were racing against a tidal wave. All our failures, all our regrets. The keeper's voice was a haunting melody. Each word dripped with malice, whispering of their inevitable fate. You cannot change what is. Panic surged in Claire's veins. Don't listen. Keep going. The trio sprinted, the darkness reaching out with wiry tendrils, each brush against their skin sending a jolt of terror through their bodies. Claire's mind raced. What was the truth the keeper spoke of? What dark corners of her soul would be uncovered? A myriad of memories flickered behind her eyes, fragments of shame and guilt rising like phantoms. Jenna! Mark! She shouted as she risked a look back, seeing the keeper looming ever larger, shadows pulsing in taunting rhythm. Then a blinding flash erupted in front of them, dropping into the ground like a well of hope. The dazzling light momentarily stalled the darkness, and instinctively they dove toward it, hearts pounding with desperation. They landed hard, rolling into another unfamiliar realm of warmth. Gasping for air, Claire blinked against the unrelenting brightness. But she felt uneasy, something felt wrong. The laughter lingered, the mocking notes clawed at her. She was in the light, but was she really safe? Unable to shake the feeling, Claire pulled herself to her feet. As she looked around, shadows began to weave through the light again, shaping into faces, familiar faces. Why are you here? A voice asked, soft but laced with disappointment. Claire's heart dropped as recognition hit. Everyone she had ever lost, everyone she had left behind, all now staring at her, trapped in the light. What is this? Claire stammered, dread creeping in again, crawling under her skin like the chill on a winter evening. Look at us, face the truth. The voices whispered, a cacophony of her past merging into a single chilling question. Claire trembled, though something deep within her urged her to confront the shadows of her past. She felt a weight pressing down on her, but what would it take to break free? Chaos swirled, and just as she was about to respond, the light flickered, giving way to a shadow like a tidal wave about to crash. Do not be deceived, change comes with a cost. The keeper's voice echoed once more, even as Claire gazed into those familiar faces and felt the weight of the shadows closing in. She knew there was only one way to confront this nightmare. What truth awaited her in the pitch-black depths? Would it set her free or ultimately doom them all? The darkness surged closer, pressing against Claire like a thick fog, a pulse that matched the frantic beating of her heart. Shadows whipped around her, faces morphing and twisting, memories laden with guilt and regret. What do you want? She shouted out, her voice breaking through the cacophony of whispers. Their responses mingled together like a choir of haunting melodies, taunting her past choices, echoing fears. You left us, floated a voice, trembling and hollow. Claire's heart ached as she recognized the sorrow in the eyes staring back. Friends, family lost but never forgotten. Each one reflected her own sense of failure. Face us, Claire. Face the truth, they implored, shadows wrapping tighter around her legs like chains. Panic flared within her, but deep down, a flicker of something else ignited. Resolve. No. Claire shouted defiantly, shaking her head as if to physically toss the shadows aside. You're not real. You don't control me. Jenna and Mark stumbled closer, breathing heavily, their presence anchoring her as the tendrils squeezed tighter around them. We can't let them take us. Jenna yelled, her own eyes wild with determination. Remember what we've been through. Mark's voice pierced the din, each word a lifeline. Claire grasped onto those words, taking a moment to breathe. She could feel the warmth of their shared experiences, the laughter they'd once shared, and the support they'd given each other over the years. In a moment of clarity, she realized all those weights were also part of what made her stronger now. With unyielding conviction, Claire faced the swirling shadows. I'm done running. We're not defined by our mistakes. As she yelled, the light within her blazed with intensity. It was a flame fueled by courage, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Images flashed in her mind, joyful memories filled with love and laughter, the bonds of friendship that had endured through chaos. Then, the keeper materialized, a swirling mass of shadows, its ominous silhouette framed in darkness. Do you think you can defy me? You can never escape your past. It thundered, a twisted grin curling on its dark face. I am not my past. Claire declared, a powerful surge amplifying her voice. We are more than our fears. Together, we rise. The unity between Claire, Jenna, and Mark crackled with strength, amplifying the light swirling around them. The shadows recoiled as if plunged with a knife, wailing as the light expanded into a burst of brilliance. Claire felt the shadow's grip slacken, the weight of despair dissolving like mist before the sun. Let go of me. She screamed again, and the faces of the past began to waver and dissipate into nothingness. You are chosen to clothe yourself in glory, not tethered to despair. The keeper screeched, but Claire stood resolute, holding on to her friend's hands. They stepped together, a unified front, toward the heart of illumination now blazing fiercely around them. A blinding flash illuminated their surroundings, the darkness retreating as the keeper's wretched shriek faded. Claire felt the weight of dread drop away, replaced by overwhelming relief. They were breaking free. With one final push, the remaining shadows around them collapsed in a gust of wind that swirled away, leaving nothing but a gentle glow wrapping around them. As tranquility settled, Claire opened her eyes to find herself, Mark, and Jenna standing back in Maplewood, beneath a vibrant dawn breaking across the horizon. The air felt fresh, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, they inhaled deep, filling their lungs with hope and renewal. Did we make it? Mark queried, glancing around in disbelief. Maybe, Claire whispered, a soft smile breaking across her face. But we fought. Together. Jenna threw her arms around Claire, the warmth of the hug dissolving the last remnants of their fear. Never again, Jenna said, pulling back, her eyes bright with determination. We choose courage now. Claire nodded, hugging her friends tightly. The sun spilled bright rays over them, illuminating their paths forward. They were home, and though the shadows had haunted them, they were ready to live with the lessons learned rather than fears endured. They wouldn't back down from the shadows anymore. As the last wisp of morning mist faded away, they stepped into a new day. Together, they would forge ahead, embracing their stories, knowing that light would always outlast the darkness, and it was a promise worth keeping. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that can leave you breathless. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and show some love. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let us hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this conclusion. Your support means the world. Let's keep this community growing.